I made it! Florida! Well, as expected, I did make it to Florida, and the weather is fantastic. It's supposed to be up to 73 degrees today, which is warm enough for me. It's not too humid. There's just a very, very subtle breeze. Actually, it's perfect camping weather, and at night, it's not that cold. It hasn't been that way since I first started off. A lot of the times it was a lot colder at night, and I was actually just ahead of a big storm all the way down the eastern coast. I beat it most of the time. I think in Carolinas there was a little bit of rain, but most of the time I did pretty good. I know there was some people that were really concerned because especially in Virginia and states in the Northeast, they got it pretty bad, and they still have it pretty bad, but fortunately my timing was really good, so it didn't affect me. But I've made it to Florida. I'm in this gorgeous camp. I'll give you more information about that later on, but this video is more just to, there's not going to be a lot of nature. You know, I've done a couple of nature videos. This is really just shooting it. Updates, a few questions from my viewers, and yeah, it's a talkie. Let's put it that way. These are pretty easy for me to do. There's not a lot of editing. A lot of the time, as I said in the past, is spent in the editing, not in the shooting. So yeah, it's been a long drive. I deserve a little bit of a break, so yeah, it's time to do something like this. Now, some of the comments I've got from my viewers, along with, you know, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. No issues with health or anything. I've been very careful. I've kept to myself most of the time. You know, there are the odd time that I have to go, you know, like inside a gas station or a small grocery store. I am prepared for that, and I think I've done well. I do meet people. I guess you'd say my camper is kind of recognizable, especially the Jeep with the snowboard on the roof. And oh, that reminds me, one of the people, some of the people have asked me, how is my gas mileage now that I'm using the snowboard? So I'll get into that as well. I'll give you an update. And other things like health is good. I've only had one issue so far, and that's my tooth. I've either broke a tooth or the filling fell out. I don't know, but there's a hole in my molar, and it's a real pain. I'm not like, actually it's just an annoyance. My gum's sore. But it's not like I'm just writhing in pain all the time, but I have to look into this. If anybody knows any dentists, especially, well, Florida or in the area, that are reasonable, because I don't have any dental insurance. I think in my travel insurance, I have dental emergency. I don't know if this qualifies, but I also have some deductibles, so chances are it's not going to do much. So dentist is on my list, definitely. Other things, a lot of people want to meet me. I understand that, and I want to meet them too. However, this is not the time for any group meetings. Let's be honest here, and I am staying away from groups. You know, I know there's some events right now with a lot of groups about camping and all that. I have no interest in that whatsoever. I am very adamant that I'm going to protect myself from crowds. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about crazy people, which are out there as well. It's just not a good time to be in a crowd right now. And I totally am going with that. I have no issues with it. You know, I'm fine in the wilderness. I don't need crowds, but for those people that do want to meet me and they want to know where I'm going, well, I don't know where I'm going. I mean, I do not have an itinerary. The only itinerary I had is I was hoping to get to Florida, you know, and I mentioned that I think 2 or 3 months ago. I've made it. The road's open. I can go wherever I want, and I haven't really decided. So will I tell you in advance? Unfortunately, I won't. You know, some people have left me little messages and phone numbers, and I might, but in all likelihood, I pretty well prefer the random meetings that people either recognize me, or the ones that are even better is when people do not know who I am, and so I can just camp out and chill and talk about camping and life and everything else. That's what I'm here for. But you know, I live life day to day right now. I'm enjoying it, and I know this is going to be a phenomenal trip. So I haven't really have a lot to say right now, but I just wanted to sort of give you an idea what this video is about, and let's see what happens. Well, I've got 3 updates I wanted to discuss. One is the miles per gallon and using the snowboard on the roof of my tow vehicle. How I've been doing with the lid of that front window that fell off and was damaged. And the third is my solar. That system's been up there for a while, but I haven't really been giving updates on it, especially for this trip. So let's start off with miles per gallon. I put a snowboard as a deflector on my tow vehicle last year. How well has it worked this trip? When I originally put out the concept, I was getting phenomenal gas mileage. I was getting up to 18 miles per gallon using it. But let's be clear, that was on the prairies. And the prairies, super flat, good highways, consistent road speed. So that was actually as optimal as I could get it. Now, the only change I've made on here, and I can show you, is I put a pool noodle. I'm always doing something with a pool noodle, but I put a pool noodle in the gap to see if that improved anything. And that might actually be having the opposite effect, so I'm probably going to try it without the pool noodle as well. But to date, when I came from New Brunswick to Florida, I have been documenting my gas mileage, and it has not been as good. I have typically been getting about 13.5, 14 miles per gallon using the deflector. I have taken the Jeep off on a few travels, and I found the Jeep was more like getting about 15 or 16 miles per gallon, and I'll totally understand that. I'm going, you know, first of all, I went up and through the Appalachians, and the second thing is I'm driving freeways and big interstates like I-95, and so instead of going 60 miles per hour, I'm going 75. So as to be expected, I'm not getting as good mileage, but is it making a difference? I still think it is. Solar. I've got the big glass panel on the roof of my camper. I also had another one tucked away under that lid. It's broken right now. I've got to replace it, and I'm actually looking for a better one anyway, so I'll have more about that. But have I had issues with generating solar power this trip? And the answer is yes. And it's not that there's not enough sun. I mean, today is a sunny day, but as you can see, I'm in shadow. Why am I in shadow? Is because every place I camp in the east so far has been in the trees. And trees are probably one of the worst things for generating solar power. And the reason being is the panel is not getting direct sunlight. It's pretty well only seeing the blue sky, and when it sees blue sky, it might as well be off because it's not blue sensitive. I've got to find some panels, maybe there are some that are blue sensitive, but I have had some times where I was getting really low. The battery was getting low. Even though I'm using a lithium battery, it was still getting low, and I had to sort of be really fussy as to what I plugged in, especially at nights. So what am I saying? When you're out in the desert and you have 8 hours of sunlight, you'll have no problems whatsoever. But if you're in areas with a lot of trees, this entire canopy of trees, you may have issues, and I have as well. Now, as far as the lid, which is the last update, it fell off, or it didn't fall off, it flipped up on a highway a couple of weeks ago. I've put it back together. I put a lock on it in the middle. That has worked perfectly. I've got no problems whatsoever. It's still working fine. And when I get a new solar panel, it's going to go back up there. Okay, well, that's my update for now. And I think there's a ladybug is on my lens. There's a ladybug. That big scary beetle is a ladybug. Okay, I got to get that off. Unfortunately, it turns out that was not a ladybug, but instead an Asian lady beetle, which has taken over the ladybug's habitat as an invasive species. I sure hope ladybugs make a comeback. One question that gets asked occasionally is about my solar panel. As you can see, it's on the roof of my camper, and it's actually tilted towards the sun. And the question is, does that actually produce more power? And the answer is absolutely. Now, if I was closer to the equator where the sun was straight up, it probably would not make much of a difference. But in northern climates, especially in North America, especially in the winter months, when the sun is very low on the horizon, like today, it's probably max about 40 degrees from the horizon. So today, yes, it does make a significant difference. And let me demonstrate it for you. First, let me start with the panel in its down position, which is just slightly angled to the back of the camper. The controller monitor reads that the power to the battery is 13.8 volts, 8.9 amps, which is 122.8 watts. But after tilting the panel up, the monitor reads 14.1 volts, 14.1 amps, which is 198.8 watts. That's almost 62% more power. Now that was quite a difference. I think you'd agree. Now if you hear the noise in the background, that is because I am in a off-road park, and that's one of the catches to where I'm staying. It's not as quiet as I'd like it. I have to share with those the boys and their noisy toys, you know. But that's okay because it's cheap. I only paid $6 a night for this place. You got to compromise sometimes, and yeah, for getting something at a low cost, I'm okay with that. Now the weather has changed, or it's going to change. It's not sunny anymore, it's cloudy, and tomorrow I think it's supposed to rain, so I got to be prepared for that. And in the background, you can see that my shower curtains are drying because it's shower day. I love having a shower right in my camper, not having to do it outside or use the scary showers that you sometimes get at a campsite, if you get anything at all. I really don't know how anybody can live without having their own shower in their camper. Oh boy, they're noisy. Boys with toys. Gotta make a noise. Anyway, shower is working fantastically. The changes I made, the modifications to the shower curtain rod work perfectly. I love the shower. The only thing I'd like to do with it sometime in the future is look into a water heater. Right now I just boil a pot on the stove. Really doesn't take me that long, and why not use the stove to heat water? That's what it's there for. But I'd like to look in a combination, which would be ideal, of a furnace and a hot water heater all in one. Not there yet, but I can always dream. Now, there was one other comment that I kept getting, and some people had asked, why do I not use the Jeep to power my battery in my trailer, especially when I'm driving? And most of the time, or pretty well all the time, when I responded to that, I said, well, because I don't really need a boost from the Jeep. And the reason being is when I'm down the highway, highways are typically broad and there's no trees. So the solar, which is on the top, is always working. However, I've got a new answer for that, because I discovered that all along, I actually am getting power from the Jeep and I didn't even know it. I wouldn't have even known it until I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I was getting low on power and I was monitoring my battery in the trailer, and as I was plugging in the trailer, because I don't keep it plugged into the Jeep when I'm stationary, because I'm traveling about on my Jeep, I looked at the current level and noticed when I turned on the Jeep, it jacked up. So it's something I always had, I just didn't know it, which is good. It's a bonus. So I've got two ways of keeping the battery going. I can use the solar on the roof and I can use the Jeep. So it's win-win. Well, guess what, folks? It's time for another Camper Kitchen Caper, where I share one of my viewers' favorite recipes. And tonight I've got one from FierceCritter. Now, I'm not sure if that's a male critter or a female critter. It doesn't matter. But they're suggesting their mushroom stroganoff recipe. So I only had to buy 2 ingredients. One was, of course, mushrooms, already sliced, don't have to do anything, and some sour cream. The other ingredients I already had, which includes, they asked for butter or margarine. Got some margarine. Cream of mushroom soup. I have some 40% less salt cream of mushroom soup. I don't like MSG. And some flour. Now, I actually do carry flour when I'm traveling, so that's a bonus. I just hardly ever use it. Now I have an opportunity. And vegetable broth. What I have is better than bouillon. Just add water. That should do. And you're supposed to serve this over either noodles or mashed potatoes. Guess what? I've got some Idahoan roasted garlic mashed potatoes. Just add hot water and you're good to go. I think I have everything I need. Oh, I'm going to actually add a little tofu because it's just getting rotten. I might as well use that. Throw that in. Just have to heat up the skillet and we're good to go. Now, if you want the exact recipe, I'll include it in the video description. But the first part was just to heat up the margarine, add the mushrooms, and gently saute. Push the mushrooms around the edges of the pan and add extra margarine in the center. Add 2 tablespoons of flour to make a roux. Well, I've never made a roux before, but I believe it's to thicken up the sauce. Next, add vegetable broth little by little, eventually stirring in the mushrooms. Now it's time to add that can of cream of mushroom soup. This magic concoction is served over mashed potatoes. And finally, add a few tablespoons of sour cream. Season with salt and pepper to taste. And voila! Well, here it is, mushroom stroganoff by FierceCritter. It looks absolutely wonderful, but I do realize that I probably got the proportions wrong. I've got a lot of sauce and extra sauce, but I don't have an awful lot of potatoes. So next time, more potatoes and noodles, but that doesn't matter. All that matters, does it taste good? Oh, it definitely does. Oh, this is really good. Thanks, FierceCritter. Another winner. Well, as expected, it did rain last night, but there are other problems as well. As you can probably hear in the background, my neighbor has a generator, and he was kind enough to leave it on all night. So I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and yeah, it's still going. Don't know why. There is no host in this place, and that's a bit of a challenge, so I can't say I'm going to recommend it, but I can at least tell you where I am. I'm in the Ocala National Forest. It's between the town of Ocala and Daytona Beach in Florida. There are many campsites here. Some of them are minimal, like this one is $6 a night right now. But it's also a compromise. Yeah, I didn't pay much, but it's very noisy, and I don't think I'd stay here again. There are other ones. There's one called, I think, Juniper Springs, which I did have a look at, and it was nice, but it was very expensive, at least in my book. So it certainly, I would recommend going to the park and just checking it out, but I think there's at least 5 or 6 places you can camp nearby. Find out one that suits you, and you should be fine. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and check out my others as well. Now, I wouldn't leave you with a noisy generator, so here's a more peaceful setting to close.